Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Steve.
Welcome to another Field Trip Friday. Where are we today, Steve?
Today, we are clearly at Duke University. And we're going to be meeting Dr. Rebecca Rimbach. She does research comparing the differences between squirrels that live in this urban environment here on campus and the squirrels that live out in a more natural environment in Duke Forest. She looks at the health differences between those different populations of squirrels.
Cool. Why don't we go meet her?
Let's go meet her.
Hey, I'm Rebecca Rimbach and I'm a postdoc from Duke University.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us or letting us join you in basically your lab.
Exactly.
So can you tell us, what you're researching and why you're researching it on Duke campus?
Okay, so I'm interested in urbanization and how it affects the health of squirrels because, the human population is growing exponentially and cities are growing and it's taking more and more habitat. And as you can see, this is pretty different from a forest.
Mm-hmm.
So there are roads, there are humans, there are cars, there's noise, there might be pollution. And I'm interested to understand how this affects squirrel health, whether this is positive or negative.
Cool. And so you're kind of comparing this environment to, so what's the other environment that you're looking at?
The other environment is Duke Forest. So the Duke Forest has different divisions and I'm working in one of them. It's relatively far away from the city Durham.
Cool.
So when you say that you're looking at squirrel health, how do you measure health?
That's a good question. So as you're gonna see in the video that we took in the forest, we take blood samples, and with these blood samples we can measure a lot of different parameters. So we can look at organ function, we can look at electrolyte balance, we measure cholesterol and triglycerides that give us an idea of what they're eating and whether, in humans that are obese or overweight and they're not moving a lot, they have very high levels of cholesterol and triglycerides, and this can be really unhealthy and cause, even heart attacks. So we're interested in understanding whether squirrels that might eat a lot of trash, whether they also have high levels of these two lipids. And then we also look at immune response, our immune system. We make blood smears and count white blood cells to assess whether there might be differences between the forest and the campus squirrels.
So how does that sampling part work?
There are actually 5 different data sets that I'm collecting. I take the blood samples here on campus together with 2 vets and in the forest. We trap squirrels to measure body mass, to look at sex ratios and how whether they're reproductively active or not.
And so that's whether they're male or female and the number of males and females?
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
True. And whether they're lactating or potentially pregnant.
Ah, cool.
Then these 2. Then I do trash bin observations where I actually determine how much time they spend in trash bins and what kind of food they're eating. And I'm trying to relate this to whether there are loads of people around or few people, but I think from the data it looks like they don't really care. So more people means more trash.
Right.
And that's when they spend more time in trash bins.
Right, so the counteracting effect of there being more people that they could potentially be afraid of isn't enough to overwhelm the fact that there's more food for them to eat.
Yeah. So there might be differences between individuals. There are more bold individuals that really don't care if they're people, and there are shyer ones, but in general it doesn't look like they care.
Interesting. So we're by some of your trash cans,
Yeah.
right? So do you just sit at this bench to watch the trash can? Like how would you observe this trash can?
I would sit over there. So there's another bench just behind the shrub.
Yep.
And I sit over there. So I have at least 10 meters between me and the trash bin because I don't want to influence them. Now I don't think it really matters because all the people just walk by and I don't care. But I want to be out of the picture.
Right.
And I just have my binoculars. And then once the squirrel hops on, I just take the time. And then I note down when it goes inside, when it comes back out, whether it carries food or not. And I have 5 different trash bins. And I do 40 hours every couple of months. So I get this seasonal variation. And I also note down weather and how full the trash bin is because, if it's empty, they're not going to find food, right? So Yeah, these are the data. And then I also write down how many people pass by and use the trash bin.
Interesting. That is really cool.
Yeah.
A big thing that what affects health, squirrel health, any organism's health, is the food that they take in, right? So can you talk about the food that squirrels eat in Duke Forest and the food that squirrels eat here on campus? Is there a difference?
So in a natural environment, they typically eat tree nuts. They eat mushrooms. They might nibble on some young leaves or something like this. They occasionally eat young birds or eggs if they find them. So that's their typical diet, let's say. And here on campus, I know that some people feed them. So they get nuts. I've seen that they are given some nutrient bars, for example. People really like this interaction. And then, of course, they also eat the trash. So I've seen pizza, they eat chicken, a lot of chicken wings, chocolate, everything they can find, really. Only once I saw a fruit. And all the other types are kind of like fast food.
Cool. So we just got to see one of your cool areas where you do a bunch of research here on campus. And I noticed a device you had. It was kind of like a net with kind of supported above the ground. What was that?
So that's a seed trap. That's what we're using to measure food availability. So we have this the seed trap, and we know the size of the seed trap, and then we have the trees above. And in autumn, when the seeds are ready, so the acorns or the pine cones or whatever, when they're ready, they fall down and they fall into the seed trap. And then I can measure how much food is there in this area and compare it to food availability in the forest.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so you can kind of measure how many seeds are around for them to eat.
Yeah. And whether they have more or less here, and whether that maybe makes them more likely to eat trash because they don't have enough. That's kind of the idea behind that.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, because you would have this whole forest of trees in the forest, whereas here you have this kind of managed, urbanized environment where you have whatever trees the university decides to have on campus.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty old, this forest. So the composition of trees seems to be pretty similar to the forest, but of course it's much smaller, right? And it's very fragmented, so you have little pieces of forest, and that's the difference, I think.
Cool.
Really.
Cool. Well, as long as we're talking about the forest, maybe we can go take a look at how you do your research and the work that you do out there with the veterinarians. So yeah, let's thank you for having me, first of all. Yeah, so let's introduce ourselves. Do you mind starting over there?
Of course. My name is Julie Blanco. I am a veterinary anesthesiologist from NC State.
Cool.
My name is Olivia Petritz. I am also a veterinarian from NC State, and I specialize in zoo medicine.
Thank you. So maybe you can just speak a little bit to why y'all are working together today. So you don't do all of your research with Olivia and Julie. Sometimes you work on your own. So why are you working with them specifically today?
Today we're working together because we were taking blood samples, because we're taking these samples to look at very different measures of health.
Right. So each of you are kind of bringing different skills to the team, as it were.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so we really appreciate, as veterinarians, being involved in projects like this and being able to collaborate with biologists and researchers, because we can bring our expertise to the table, but also learn. Like, we've learned a lot from this experience, so we can safely anesthetize and recover an animal, as much as we can in a forest situation here. But so we monitor them and make sure that they're healthy and are able to be released. So I think we can all bring that to the table and have a good collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. The entire kind of prospect of asking the question, it kind of demands some respect for the individuals in the study, right? You're saying, okay, well, I want to answer this question about how humans are affecting the squirrels. To do so, I need to capture them, and to do that safely, You need to recruit people who have that expertise. That's cool.
Yeah, and it allows us to bring all those different skill sets together and make it a safe experience for the animal and still be able to answer the question.
Right.
For sure.
Absolutely. And I love that you also mentioned that it kind of adds confidence to you too. You can feel everybody
for
probably.
sure.
It feels better to work together.
Yeah.
So we just got to see some amazing kind of veterinary medicine in action and awesome field science happening. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what that was. So maybe we just start with what are you studying? Like what is even happening here in the forest?
So I'm interested, or we're interested actually, in how the squirrels are affected by urbanization. Because if you look, you see the squirrels in the city and they eat trash potentially, or they're being fed, and we're interested in understanding whether this affects their health.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you. And so there was a lot of veterinary procedure happening with this, and so that's where you're getting help from these veterinarians,
exactly,
right? So
yeah.
you're kind of managing this particular side of the kind of human interaction research side of it, and then you're kind of enlisting some help from veterinarians to help you do the blood draws and other things. I think I saw.
Exactly.
Is that what I saw? What are some other things that you were doing?
So what we did for the squirrels, we briefly anesthetized them with an anesthetic gas, which really can go into more depth if you want. And then we did a complete physical exam, including a weight, and we listened to their heart, and we palpated their belly, and then we drew some blood from their back leg. Not very much, just a little bit, so they have plenty to give. We also took a hair sample and gave them a microchip so we can ensure if we catch them again that we know who is who.
That is awesome. So yeah, that's a lot of work, and it was cool to see how quickly y'all did that with each individual squirrel. Maybe let's talk a little bit about how you anesthetize a squirrel in the forest. Like, I think that's just so wild that you're able to do this as like a field procedure. You don't just have to capture them and take them to a veterinary clinic somewhere. Instead, you're able to do this kind of in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're able to, Rebecca catches them in a trap, and then we basically put them into this clear chamber that we deliver an anesthetic agent to, and the squirrels basically inhale it, they go to sleep, and then we're able to do all of our procedures, and then when we're finished, we stop administration of that inhalant, and they recover in just a few minutes and are able to go back about their happy and healthy lives in the forest.
So I'm not sure how much data analysis you have done, but have you seen differences in the data of the population on campus versus population at Duke Forest, or is it kind of too early to say?
It's both. So of course, every time I get new data, I look at it because it's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting is I don't find any differences in body mass. Of course, adults are heavier than juveniles, that's
Right.
clear. But there are no clear differences that the campus ones are heavier.
Yeah, so you're not finding like a bunch of
Obese.
squirrels. Yeah.
No. So that's interesting. And I looked at some of the blood data already, and cholesterol and triglycerides are pretty similar, actually. I was also
Interesting.
surprised. With the triglycerides, I find two distinct groups. So I have some individuals with very high levels, and a lot of them have normal values. So I wonder whether these are the guys that are feeding
The
on
bold
the trash.
ones, right? Like you were saying that some of them are more likely to go.
Exactly. So there might be inter-individual differences in how likely they are to go in the trash bins.
Interesting.
And when we look at sugar, blood sugar, there is a clear difference. So the ones in the forest have low levels. And then we took blood twice here on campus, once in July when there were few people around during lockdown, and once in September when there was lots of trash. And you can really see how it increases.
Interesting.
So that's a pretty clear difference.
Thank you, Rebecca, so much for letting us follow you around a little bit on Duke University campus today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. It was so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is such a cool project. It's just such a kind of obvious question. We live with squirrels all around us all the time, and I really think it's cool that you've decided to investigate more about what it's like for them.
Yeah.
That's right. Stick around for the live Q&A right after this.
Yeah, we're going to get to talk with Rebecca. Keep your questions.
Bye.
Bye.